From IsReal News, this is the evening briefing for Friday, March 20th. Police in Jerusalem released new footage from the impact of a weapons fragment near the Old City walls this afternoon, following a missile launch from Iran. Jerusalem District Commander Avshalom Peled said this was the third time during the current campaign that explosive munitions components fell in the city near the Old City and holy sites. He said holy places remain closed in order to protect lives. This comes as repeated launches continue to affect sensitive areas in and around Jerusalem. According to CBS, the Pentagon is making preparations for the possible deployment of U.S. ground forces in Iran. The report said discussions have been held on how to handle possible detention of Iranian soldiers or military personnel if such a deployment is approved. This occurs amid continued debate in Washington over the scope of possible next steps. U.S. President Donald Trump said the United States is very close to achieving its goals in Iran. In a post on Truth Social, Trump listed those goals as the destruction of Iran's missile capacity, defense industry, Navy and Air Force, preventing Iran from nearing nuclear capability, and protecting U.S. allies in the Middle East. He also said the Strait of Hormuz should be monitored by other countries that use it, with U.S. assistance if requested. This occurs as Washington signals that military operations may be approaching a new phase. Earlier, Trump said he does not want a ceasefire with Iran and said Israel would be ready to end the war when the United States is ready to do so. Separately, the U.S. military published before and after images of a drone factory near Isfahan that it said had been destroyed. This follows continued U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian military infrastructure. Missile launches from Iran triggered sirens in central Israel, the Jerusalem area, the coastal plain, and the Shfela. Reports said at least one dispersal missile was launched and that several impact scenes in central Israel were caused by interception debris. Magen David Adom said it received no reports of injuries, and the IDF later said civilians could leave protected spaces. Israeli security officials say about 20 missiles were launched from Iran in the past 24 hours, nearly twice the average of recent days. They assess that the increase in fire toward Israel comes as Iran has reduced launches toward Gulf states. Officials also said that since the war began, about 400 missiles have been launched from Iran, and that some of the dispersal missiles now being used carry fewer submunitions but more lethal warheads. This takes place as both sides adjust tactics during the current phase of the war. The IDF also said Iranian forces have, in recent days, shifted ballistic missile launches toward central Iran after Israeli strikes reduced much of their launch capability in the west of the country. The military said 2 waves of strikes in Tehran and central Iran targeted factories and sites used to produce weapons and develop components for long-range ballistic missiles. This follows continued Israeli efforts to degrade Iran's launch infrastructure. According to the BBC, Britain has given the United States approval to use bases in the United Kingdom for strikes on Iranian targets that threaten the Strait of Hormuz. The report said this expands a previous approval related to threats against British assets. This comes as the conflict increasingly affects maritime routes and allied military planning. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, warned that British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is endangering British civilian lives after Britain reportedly approved U.S. use of its bases for strikes connected to Hormuz. This comes as Iranian officials respond to expanded Western military coordination. Saudi Arabia said it intercepted 11 drones in recent hours, while the United Arab Emirates said it was dealing with missiles and drones that were successfully intercepted. Bahrain said it has destroyed 143 missiles and 242 drones launched toward it since the war began. Iranian media also carried a threat against Ras Al Khaimah, one of the 7 emirates, if Iranian islands in the Gulf are attacked again. This occurs as the conflict continues to widen across the Gulf. According to sources cited by Israel's Kan News, senior clerics in Iran have declared that obtaining nuclear weapons has become a religious necessity for the defense of Islam and the regime. The same clerics reportedly said energy facilities in countries they say are aiding aggression against Iran, including Qatar and Saudi Arabia, are legitimate targets. This occurs as war rhetoric inside Iran takes on an increasingly religious framing. Opposition-linked footage aired in Israel appears to show an Iranian intimidation campaign in which intelligence personnel approach civilians by posing as grocery delivery workers, then accuse them of filming strike locations and passing footage to opposition media and Israel. The footage, said to have come from body cameras of Iranian intelligence personnel, has not been independently verified. This takes place amid reports of growing pressure on civilians inside Iran and fears that public unrest is being suppressed. In the United States, the Trump administration has sued Harvard University, alleging the school failed to protect Jewish and Israeli students and seeking to recover billions of dollars. The Justice Department said Harvard remained deliberately indifferent to harassment of Jewish and Israeli students. Harvard said it would contest the lawsuit. This comes as the administration expands pressure on major universities over anti-Semitism complaints. U.S. financial markets ended lower, with the Dow down more than 440 points and the S&P 500 and NASDAQ posting a fourth straight weekly loss. Oil prices rose sharply as the conflict continued, and after Reuters reported that Iraq declared force majeure on all oil fields operated by foreign companies. This occurs as the war increasingly affects global energy markets and investor sentiment. Those are the latest headlines from IsReal News.